imagine someone offering you a beautiful, shiny gift. It looks amazing on the outside, but inside it's filled with poison. That's exactly what can happen in your spiritual journey if you're not careful. Today, we're diving into 7 seemingly innocent things that can actually harm your spiritual growth. These are the gifts you should never accept, even when they come from well-meaning friends or teachers. Our spiritual path is like a delicate garden. We need to nurture it with care, choosing the right elements to help it grow. But just like a garden can be overrun by weeds, our spiritual life can be held back by certain influences. Some of these come disguised as helpful offerings, making them even trickier to spot. That's why it's crucial to know what to watch out for. In this video, we'll explore 7 things that might seem positive at first glance, but can actually slow down or even reverse your spiritual progress. By learning to recognize these hidden traps, you'll be better equipped to protect your spiritual well-being and continue growing on your path. Remember, your spiritual journey is uniquely yours. What works for someone else might not be right for you. It's all about finding your own way and staying true to your inner wisdom. So, let's get started and uncover these 7 spiritual pitfalls together. The first thing you should never accept from anyone on your spiritual journey is blind obedience. This might come in the form of a spiritual teacher or guru who demands complete, unquestioning loyalty. They might say things like, "Don't think, just follow," or "Trust me completely, and your life will change." At first, this might seem appealing. After all, isn't it easier to have someone else tell you exactly what to do? But here's the problem. Blind obedience can seriously harm your spiritual growth. It stops you from developing your own inner wisdom and intuition. Instead of learning to trust yourself, you become dependent on someone else for all your spiritual decisions. This kind of relationship can lead to a loss of personal power. You might find yourself unable to make decisions without consulting your teacher. Worse, you could end up following guidance that goes against your own values or instincts simply because you've been told to obey without question. Real spiritual growth comes from developing your own understanding and connection with the divine. It's about learning to listen to your inner voice and trust your own judgment. A truly wise spiritual teacher will encourage you to question, explore, and find your own truth, not demand blind loyalty. Instead of accepting blind obedience, try to cultivate a healthy sense of spiritual discernment. This means being open to guidance from others, but always filtering it through your own inner wisdom. Ask questions, reflect on what you're being taught, and see how it aligns with your own experiences and values. Remember, no one else can walk your spiritual path for you. While it's great to learn from others, the ultimate authority on your spiritual journey should be your own heart and soul. Trust yourself and don't be afraid to respectfully disagree with or question any teacher or teaching that doesn't feel right to you. The second thing you should be wary of receiving is what we might call energy vampirism. This is when someone in your spiritual circle, it could be a friend, a fellow seeker, or even a so-called spiritual guide, constantly drains your energy. You might notice that after spending time with this person, you feel exhausted, drained, or somehow less than you were before. They might always have a problem that needs solving, or they might subtly put you down while claiming to help you. Some energy vampires are masters at making you feel guilty if you don't give them your time and attention. At first, you might think you're just being helpful or compassionate by giving this person your energy. After all, isn't spirituality about helping others? But here's the thing. True spiritual connections should leave both people feeling uplifted and energized, not drained and depleted. Constant energy drain can seriously impact your spiritual progress. It can leave you feeling too tired to meditate, too emotionally drained to practice self-reflection, or too discouraged to pursue your own growth. Over time, it can even lead to spiritual burnout, where you lose your enthusiasm for your spiritual path altogether. Instead of accepting this kind of energy drain, it's important to set healthy boundaries. This doesn't mean you stop being kind or helpful. It just means you learn to recognize when someone is taking more than they're giving, and you take steps to protect your own energy. Try to limit your time with energy vampires, or if possible, distance yourself from them completely. Focus on relationships that are mutually supportive, where there's a healthy give and take of energy. Learn to say no when you need to, without feeling guilty. Remember, taking care of your own spiritual energy isn't selfish, it's necessary. Just like you need to put on your own oxygen mask before helping others on a plane, you need to maintain your own spiritual well-being to truly be of service to others. Cultivate practices that help you recharge your own energy. This might be spending time in nature, practicing meditation, or engaging in creative activities you love. By keeping your own spiritual battery charged, you'll be better equipped to handle any energy drains that come your way. The third thing you should never accept on your spiritual journey is spiritual bypassing. This is a tricky concept because it often disguises itself as deep spiritual wisdom. Spiritual bypassing is when someone uses spiritual ideas or practices to avoid dealing with difficult emotions, unresolved wounds, or real-life problems. You might encounter this in the form of advice like, just think positive and all your problems will disappear. Or, if you were truly spiritual, you wouldn't feel angry, sad, scared. Some spiritual communities even shame people for having negative emotions, claiming that enlightened beings are always peaceful and happy. At first glance, this might seem appealing. Who wouldn't want to skip over the hard stuff and go straight to peace and happiness? But here's the problem. Spiritual bypassing actually prevents true healing and growth. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a deep wound without cleaning it first. Sure, you can't see the wound anymore, but underneath, it's still there, possibly getting worse. Real spiritual growth involves facing all parts of ourselves, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It means acknowledging our pain, working through our traumas, and learning from our mistakes. By accepting spiritual bypassing, we rob ourselves of these important growth opportunities. Moreover, spiritual bypassing can lead to a kind of false enlightenment. You might think you've transcended all your problems, but in reality, you've just buried them under a layer of spiritual jargon. This can lead to a disconnect between your spiritual life and your everyday reality, making it hard to apply your spiritual insights to real-world situations. Instead of accepting spiritual bypassing, aim for a more balanced approach to spirituality. This means embracing all of your emotions, even the uncomfortable ones, as part of your human experience. It means facing your problems head-on, using your spiritual practices as tools to help you navigate challenges, not avoid them. Try to cultivate self-compassion and emotional honesty in your spiritual practice. When you're feeling upset or struggling with something, acknowledge those feelings. Sit with them, explore them, and see what they have to teach you. Use meditation or prayer not to escape your emotions, but to create a safe space where you can process them. Remember, true spirituality isn't about being perfect or always feeling good. It's about growing, learning, and becoming more whole, and that includes embracing all aspects of your human experience. By rejecting spiritual bypassing, you open yourself up to deeper, more authentic spiritual growth. In your spiritual journey, it's crucial to be aware of these potential pitfalls. Blind obedience can stifle your personal growth and intuition. Energy vampirism can leave you drained and unable to focus on your own spiritual path. And spiritual bypassing can prevent you from truly healing and growing. By being mindful of these issues, you can create a healthier, more authentic spiritual practice. Remember, your spiritual journey is about becoming more fully yourself, not about conforming to someone else's idea of spirituality. Trust your own inner wisdom, protect your energy, and be willing to face all aspects of yourself, both the light and the shadow. As we continue exploring the remaining 4 things you should never accept in your spiritual journey, keep in mind that discernment is key. Not everything that glitters in the spiritual world is gold, and sometimes the most valuable lessons come from learning what to politely decline. The 4th thing you should be cautious about accepting is the promise of instant enlightenment or spiritual awakening. This often comes in the form of workshops, retreats, or special techniques that claim to give you immediate spiritual transformation. You might hear phrases like, "Achieve enlightenment in just 1 weekend," or "This secret technique will instantly open your 3rd eye." These offers can be incredibly tempting. After all, who wouldn't want to skip the hard work and jump straight to spiritual mastery? But here's the truth. Genuine spiritual growth is a journey, not a destination you can reach overnight. The problem with these instant enlightenment promises is that they often lead to disappointment and disillusionment. When the promised transformation doesn't happen, you might feel like you failed or that there's something wrong with you. This can actually set back your spiritual progress, making you doubt yourself and the whole idea of spiritual growth. Moreover, these quick fix approaches often provide only surface-level experiences. You might feel a temporary high or have an interesting experience, but without the foundation of consistent practice and inner work, these effects usually fade quickly. Real, lasting spiritual growth comes from sustained effort and gradual transformation over time. Instead of chasing after instant enlightenment, focus on developing a consistent spiritual practice. This might include daily meditation, regular self-reflection, or studying spiritual teachings. Embrace the idea that your spiritual journey is a lifelong process of learning and growth. Remember, every small step you take on your spiritual path is valuable. Celebrate the little insights and moments of peace you experience along the way. These are the building blocks of true spiritual transformation. By rejecting the false promise of instant enlightenment, you open yourself up to the rich, rewarding experience of genuine spiritual growth. The 5th thing to be wary of in your spiritual journey is spiritual materialism. This is the tendency to turn spirituality into a collection of objects, experiences, or achievements. It's when people focus more on acquiring spiritual stuff than on actual inner growth. You might see this in people who are always buying the latest crystal, attending every workshop, or constantly talking about their spiritual experiences. They might brag about how many retreats they've been to or how many famous gurus they've met. Some even treat spiritual practices like badges of honor, competing to see who can meditate the longest or who knows the most obscure teachings. At first, this approach might seem harmless or even helpful. After all, isn't it good to be enthusiastic about spirituality? But here's the problem. Spiritual materialism can actually become a major obstacle to genuine spiritual growth. It shifts the focus from inner transformation to outer acquisition. Instead of doing the hard work of self-reflection and personal growth, people get caught up in chasing spiritual experiences or collecting spiritual credentials. This approach can lead to a kind of spiritual ego, where people start to feel superior because of their spiritual knowledge or experiences. It can also create a constant sense of lack, always feeling like you need the next workshop, the next technique, or the next spiritual trinket to be truly spiritual. Instead of falling into spiritual materialism, try to cultivate a simpler, more authentic approach to spirituality. Focus on developing qualities like compassion, mindfulness, and inner peace in your everyday life. Remember that true spirituality isn't about what you have or what you've done. It's about who you are becoming as a person. This doesn't mean you can't enjoy spiritual objects or attend retreats. It's just about keeping these things in perspective. A crystal or a mala can be a beautiful reminder of your spiritual path, but it's not the path itself. A retreat can be a wonderful opportunity for growth, but the real work happens in how you live your life day to day. Try to develop a sense of contentment with where you are on your spiritual journey. Appreciate the simple practices that bring you peace and clarity. Remember, the most profound spiritual truths are often found in ordinary moments. A kind word to a stranger, a moment of gratitude for a beautiful sunset, or a deep breath in a stressful situation. The sixth thing to be cautious about in your spiritual journey is guru worship. This goes beyond having respect for a spiritual teacher. It's when people elevate their guru or spiritual leader to an almost godlike status, believing they can do no wrong. You might see this in spiritual communities where followers hang on every word of their teacher, never questioning anything they say or do. People might make major life decisions based solely on their guru's advice, or they might defend their guru's actions even when they seem unethical or harmful. At first, having deep respect for a spiritual teacher might seem like a good thing. After all, isn't it important to trust your guide on the spiritual path? But here's the problem. Guru worship can actually hinder your spiritual growth and lead you astray. When we put someone on such a high pedestal, we often stop thinking for ourselves. We might ignore our own intuition or common sense in favor of blindly following the guru's teachings. This can lead to a loss of personal power and spiritual autonomy. Instead of developing our own connection with the divine, we become dependent on the guru as an intermediary. Moreover, guru worship can be dangerous because it ignores the reality that all humans, even spiritual teachers, are fallible. History has shown us many examples of respected spiritual leaders who have abused their power or made serious mistakes. When we engage in guru worship, we become vulnerable to manipulation and may overlook harmful behavior. Instead of falling into guru worship, try to cultivate a balanced relationship with spiritual teachers. It's okay to respect and learn from someone who has more experience or knowledge than you, but always remember to keep your critical thinking skills sharp. Question teachings that don't make sense to you, and don't be afraid to disagree respectfully. Remember, a truly wise teacher will encourage you to think for yourself and find your own truth. They'll be open to questions and won't demand unquestioning obedience. They'll point you towards your own inner wisdom rather than insisting that they have all the answers. Try to see spiritual teachers as fellow travelers on the path, perhaps further along in some ways, but still human. Appreciate their teachings, but also trust your own inner guidance. The goal of spiritual growth is to become your own guru, to develop your own deep connection with the divine and your own inner wisdom. By avoiding guru worship, you protect yourself from potential manipulation and disappointment. More importantly, you open yourself up to a more authentic, empowering spiritual journey, one where you learn to trust your own inner light while still being open to guidance from others. Item 7, spiritual ego. The seventh and final thing to be wary of on your spiritual journey is the trap of spiritual ego. This is when your spiritual practices or beliefs become a source of pride and superiority rather than humility and compassion. It's a subtle but dangerous pitfall that can significantly hinder your spiritual growth. You might notice spiritual ego in yourself or others when there's a tendency to look down on people who aren't spiritual enough. It can manifest as feeling superior because you meditate every day, follow a strict spiritual diet, or have had profound spiritual experiences. Some people with spiritual ego might constantly talk about their practices or insights, seeking admiration or validation from others. At first, feeling good about your spiritual progress might seem positive. After all, isn't it natural to feel proud of your growth? But here's the problem. Spiritual ego can actually be a major obstacle on your path. It creates separation between you and others, which goes against the fundamental spiritual principle of unity and interconnectedness. Spiritual ego can make you closed-minded, preventing you from learning from others or seeing the divine in everyday situations. It can lead to judgment and criticism, pushing away the very people you might be able to help or learn from. Worst of all, it can create a false sense of achievement, making you think you've arrived spiritually, when in reality, the journey of growth is never ending. Instead of falling into the trap of spiritual ego, try to cultivate genuine humility and openness. Remember that true spirituality often expresses itself in simple acts of kindness, not grand displays of spiritual knowledge or abilities. Practice seeing the divine in everyone and everything, regardless of how spiritual they might appear on the surface. One powerful antidote to spiritual ego is the practice of gratitude. Instead of feeling proud of your spiritual accomplishments, feel grateful for the opportunity to grow and learn. Acknowledge that your spiritual insights are gifts, not personal achievements to boast about. Another helpful approach is to regularly remind yourself that everyone is on their own unique spiritual journey. The person you might judge as unspiritual could be teaching you important lessons in patience, compassion, or unconditional love. By letting go of spiritual ego, you open yourself up to learning from every person and every situation you encounter. As we wrap up our exploration of these 7 things to be cautious about in your spiritual journey, it's important to remember that awareness is key. By being mindful of these potential pitfalls, blind obedience, energy vampirism, spiritual bypassing, false promises of instant enlightenment, spiritual materialism, guru worship, and spiritual ego, you can navigate your path with greater wisdom and authenticity. Remember, true spirituality isn't about perfection or achieving some ultimate state of enlightenment. It's about growing, learning, and becoming more fully yourself. It's about developing compassion, not just for others, but also for yourself as you navigate the complexities of your spiritual journey. Don't be discouraged if you find yourself falling into some of these traps from time to time. We all do. The important thing is to recognize them when they occur and gently guide yourself back to a more balanced path. Each time you do this, you're growing and deepening your spiritual understanding. Your spiritual journey is uniquely yours. Trust your inner wisdom, question everything, including this video, and always come back to your own direct experience. Be open to guidance from others, but don't forget that the ultimate authority on your spiritual path is your own heart and soul. As you continue on your journey, may you find joy in the process of growth, peace in the face of challenges, and love for yourself and all beings. Remember, every step you take on your spiritual path, no matter how small, is valuable and worthy of celebration. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of spiritual pitfalls. May your journey be filled with genuine growth, deep insights, and true transformation. Keep seeking, keep growing, and above all, keep being authentically you.